Talking about the black bullshit.
I
Sorry.
know, right? Yeah. Everybody, we are live again. Dynasty Mirror Search for Huru. And tonight I have the sister Ndona with us. And we're going to be discussing Black privilege and the cultural divide. Sister Ndona, I'm just going to go ahead and let you take it away from here.
Okay.
Because I know I think a lot of this has to do somewhat with classism, maybe?
Oh, absolutely. Classism,
Okay.
colorism.
Okay. Colorism, classism. Okay. All right, cool. So I know that's let me ask you this. Do you think colorism's a big issue here in America amongst Black people?
I think that definitely it is an issue within America. Definitely. It's an issue in the Americas, not just the United States. What you'll find is that as I guess what we consider to be Black people within the United States, as a lighter skinned Black person, you have a lot more benefits. You're able to advance more so in the Caribbean and Central and Southern America than here in the United States. In the United States, that's been stifled after the Civil Rights Movement.
Right.
Whereas pre-Civil Rights Movement, they were doing quite well.
Because it's like I don't really see it that much. You know, I don't really hear people speaking on it. I mean, we might have our light skin, dark skin jokes here and there, but I don't really sense it here in America as far as like a light skin privilege. I mean, I don't know. I could be wrong.
What I can say, if I speak specifically about my mom's family and families like my mother, they did better pre-desegregation than after. Far better. They had far more wealth. They had far more access. That once there was that whole civil rights movement, then now it was like, okay, now the downtrodden, uneducated Black is now being pushed upon us. And that's how they felt. Because what you'll find is that the masses of Black people did not have wealth. The masses of Black people did not have education, but there were those that did have it and were benefiting from it for generations, even during slavery, even after emancipation, even once they implemented segregation, because segregation didn't always exist in the United States. It was something that was put into play after they realized, okay, well, we've freed all of these people. Now they're in competition with the poor whites. And now we need to put something in place that's going to stifle their growth. So what you'll find is that the Blacks that did have, and let's just call it for what it is, it was the Blacks that were considered to be mulattoes. And they benefited from that for many, many years, even during slavery, even after emancipation. And what caused the issues within the United States and what stifled their continued growth and access was the civil rights movement. These are the people who, once segregation was eliminated, then all of a sudden the Black people that they did not want to associate with, that they did not want to, that they literally didn't have to associate with, based on the fact that they had the means to be away from them. And they treated them just like the average white person that had wealth. They felt that they were above them. They felt that they only needed to have them around only if they needed them to come in and do work for them. And what you'll find is that many times the areas where there was what they referred to as the darker skinned Blacks, the country Blacks, the ghetto Blacks, they didn't live near them. But after segregation was eliminated, all of a sudden, these people, the Black people that lived in the inner cities or lived in these country areas, many of them were given subsidies to be able to move into nicer areas, where oftentimes there were, like, say, for example, where I grew up in Evanston, Illinois.
Right.
The poor Blacks came into Evanston when I was a child, and that was through subsidies from the city of Chicago. in order to give they called it, they said it was to be able to give educational opportunities to Blacks of Chicago. And I remember when I was like, I think I was in middle school. No, I think I was a freshman in high school. And Jesse Jackson Jr. literally went on television talking about he wanted the children of the Black kids of Chicago to have the same access to quality education as the Black children of Evanston. But what he didn't realize is that the Black children of Evanston came from families who built their homes, purchased their land, and paid taxes into the system that enabled that education in Evanston. But then you had this great divide based on education, based on class, once you had now these Blacks coming in from inner city Chicago into Evanston. So what you'll find is like nowadays, there's still a massive divide between the supposed educated elite Blacks of Evanston and then the downtrodden Blacks that came in from Chicago. And that has a lot to do with the fact that we were told not to associate with them. We were told not to play with them. We were told that they were beneath us. We were told that that the only way they were able to ever be able to live in our city was due to subsidies, because they couldn't afford it on their own. So if the government wasn't giving them welfare programs and the government wasn't giving them Section 8, they would never have been able to afford to live in our city.
Right. Let me ask you this, Ndona. How do you feel about now? Only in America are biracials considered Black.
Right.
How do you feel about that?
Because
I know everywhere else they're colored or mixed or biracial.
I'll tell you this. So when I was a child, I just considered them to be Black, mainly because of my own family.
Right.
In my own family, they come as light as they can be. Even though they didn't consider themselves to be Black, because even when my mother was a child, they weren't called Black; they were called colored or mulatto.
Right. Oh, really? Here in America?
Here in the United States, they were called mulatto. My mom was born in 1945.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, my mom was born in 1945. My mother was considered to be a mulatto. Her mother, they were considered to be mulattoes. And the Black name they didn't start applying that until the 1980s. And prior to that, remember, it was Negro. I don't know how old you are.
I'm 36.
Oh, okay.
82. I'm an 80s.
Oh, okay. So in the 1980s is when they coined the term Black. Prior to that, it was Negro. And then before that, you had the colored, mulatto, and then you had the Black. The Black were the ones that weren't mixed, considered the Africans. But even here in the United States, you had enclaves of mulatto oases.
What did you say?
Oases.
Oases.
Yeah, oasis, like an oasis.
Okay. Oh yeah. Seattle, Phoenix, Arizona, LA. Yeah.
So they were living by themselves. And I can say that it wasn't until I traveled to, like, we used to go to France a lot when I was a little girl. So like my cousins there from my dad's family, because my dad's from the Congo. So my cousins there, they called us mixed. And I thought they called us mixed because my mom was American and my dad was African. But they called us mixed because as far as they're concerned, anyone who has any type of mixed race, they call you mixed regardless of what you look like. So that was really my first encounter with that. I thought it was strange because I was just like, well, in the United States, people come in all different colors, especially within the Black community. And then they thought it was stupid. And then even once I went to Congo, it was even worse. Like they were just like, if your parent is white or of mixed race, you're considered to be mixed, even though your ethnic identity might be something other than that. But I don't know. It really depends. It depends because sometimes I embrace the whole thing with mixed, especially I remember one time I had come back from Congo. I'd spent like a few months there and I came back. And I learned a great deal, some that I wanted to learn and some that I wish I never learned.
Right. What did you not want to learn when you went to Congo?
The prejudice amongst the different ethnic groups. Because here it's just like, you're like, oh, well, it's Africa. They're all Africans. And that's total bullshit. It's bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
There is more discrimination that I have seen amongst the different ethnic groups in Africa than worse than I've ever seen between blacks and whites.
Oh, now are you playing the what about the black on black crime? Are we going there?
well,
are we going that direction?
That's different. We're talking about hood games. That's different.
Okay.
That's a little different because those people are just killing, you know.
Well, let me ask you: you don't think that has something to do with white supremacy?
Do you want me to be okay? So I'm going to
no. Be honest. No, of course.
I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to have to preface.
Go ahead. Of course.
I'm going to have to preface it with this.
Go ahead. Now you don't think that's the after effect of colonialism?
I'm going to have to preface it with this. Okay. I had a conversation with a close friend of mine who's down in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. He's from Jersey.
Halima.
No, not Halima. This is an African American brother.
Okay.
He's down in Atlanta. He's from Jersey. Mm-hmm. Most of my friends in Atlanta are from Jersey or New York. Mm-hmm. And I finally have come to the realization that I am the victim of my upbringing. And I mm-hmm. say that because when I look at the black on black crime within the inner cities and the black communities, mm-hmm. because I'm trying to be nice.
No. Just, give it to us raw.
Okay, so because I know people from those backgrounds, mm-hmm. and I've encountered those people.
Right.
A lot of it is self-destructive behavior.
I agree. We did a video called "Killer Sambos Are Destroying the Black Community." So I agree.
And I'm just like, okay, like I'll give you an example. There's one particular person who I know who, rather than, trying to gain some type of skill to be able to advance her life, it's just like, oh, I heard about they opening up the Section 8 list.
Oh God!
Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, really? Like, how old are you right now? And they're opening up the what? So I'm like, well, so next thing you're going to tell me is that they're now increasing the welfare payments.
Right.
And that is not the direct result of colonialism. That is not the direct result of slavery. That is a direct result of the Democratic Party and what they have been lying to these people about what they deserve.
So let me ask you this. We might have to shift a little bit.
Okay.
So I guess I don't. Oh, there's a bad echo. Hold on. There's a bad. Okay. I guess I don't keep up with politics like I should.
Oh yeah.
So is the Democratic Party really in the black community saying, hey, you guys need to just focus and strive on food stamps and Section 8?
Yes. Literally, yes. I'm going to tell you. Okay, so my mom's family, generationally, they're Republicans.
Okay.
Because of the fact that my mother was an entertainer and my dad was a professor and he taught music, we spent a lot of time with my grandmother's generation. My grandmother worked for the state's attorney's office. She worked for, now this is also connecting back to Black privilege. She worked for the state's attorney's office. She worked for, I don't know if you're familiar with Chicago politics, but she worked for Richard.
I know it was real gutter.
Yeah. Well, she worked for Richard Daley, the father. And she also worked for Richard Daley, the son. Uh-huh. And we were associated with a lot of judges, a lot of power movers in the political arena in Illinois. And what I found is that the stronger the Democratic Party became, mm-hmm. in Evanston in particular, I won't speak about Chicago, but in Evanston in particular, what you'll find is that there was this massive movement, mm-hmm. of uneducated, unrefined Blacks from the inner city with assistance from the government through subsidies, welfare programs, and they now move them in on the hardworking Black people, the Black people that have worked and tried their damnedest to get ahead and to make sure that there is a proper education for their children and a safe environment for their children to live within. And all of a sudden, and I'm gonna say this, the Democratic whites, the liberals, because they were jealous, many of them poor white trash, then grabbed up these poor Black uneducated people who had no desire to improve their lives, and now put them on the educated, hardworking Blacks. And then now what do you have? You have the savages that moved in from Chicago killing the suburban Black kids.
Okay, let me ask you this. So at the end of civil rights, or end of segregation, Black people started to, then at the end of segregation, I guess, is when Black people started to vote Democrat. Am I correct? Because we were Republican at one time.
We were totally Republican.
Right. So we start moving into,
because they knew the government wasn't going to give us shit.
Right.
You literally had to work for everything you had. The businesses, like I have one of my great uncles who owned a waste management business from the late 40s all the way up to when his son sold it a couple of years ago. Generational wealth, where they made millions of dollars. But you didn't see them on, out in the street talking about, oh, the white man got to give me the 40 acres. Hell no. He went out there when these people, he would go all along the North Shore and, basically picking up things, recycling them, selling them, even to the point where there are even some families who were associated with my great-grandfather who gave them houses that they were going to be tearing down for absolute nothing. And they moved those houses into Evanston, and then they went ahead and resold them. So you have that. You also have my great-grandfather who sold land to the city of Evanston. You have other uncles of mine who've done other businesses. Like even within Evanston today, I still have family members that own businesses. And they knew that even though I will say this, they were the beneficiaries of their ancestors who were able to give them what most Blacks weren't able to get. I'll put that in there. But they knew that the government wasn't going to give them anything that they had, whether it was education, whether it was land, whether it was a business. They knew that they had to create it and build it themselves. They weren't standing there waiting for something. They weren't begging. They weren't saying, where's my 40 acres and a mule? They weren't saying, I want reparations. They weren't saying we need some type of additional subsidies in order to give a proper education to my children. They didn't do that. They did it on their own. And that's why what you'll find is that the Black families that were generationally Republican, they worked for everything that they got. But what you'll find is that the masses, unfortunately, those that did not have access pre-segregation, those that did not have education pre-segregation, those that were marginalized. But even Condoleezza Rice was from Alabama.
Right.
And she's from a Republican family. And there was that same mindset. Educate your children. Even though the school might not give you the proper education, you educate them at home. You educate them at home to make sure that they are equipped to be able to compete in the society. But then you come along all of a sudden because JFK needed votes. That's when the massive transfer over to the Democratic Party came. JFK needed votes.
Right. So let me ask you. So we go Democrat. Segregation's over.
And everything has gone downhill ever since.
Okay, so we start moving into these, I guess it's kind of the suburbs, but not really the suburbs where white people are. They have white flight. And then since we're Democrats, our neighborhoods should start going to shit. You think that had a lot to do with the Democratic Party?
Oh, hell yeah. Because think about this. The Democratic Party historically is the party of the poor white man. It's the party of the poor white man. Many of them, even white indentured servants right here in the United States, just be real about it. The Irish in the US were slaves in this country.
But okay, the Irish, they were indentured servants. They were not slaves. They were indentured servants.
They were slaves in Europe, and they continue to be. They are treated like shit.
But not like how black people were treated.
Oh, please. What?
No.
Have you been to England, darling?
No, they're not. The Irish are not slaves. Come on.
They're treated like garbage.
Okay, treated like garbage versus how we were treated on those transatlantic slave trade boats is completely different.
Wow. Well, that is different.
Yeah, I think it is a whole lot different.
Yeah.
But go ahead, continue.
But yeah, so it's a party for the poor white man. It's not the party for a black man who's trying to get ahead in life. And the poor, and unfortunately, if you look at it historically, when has a poor white man been for the betterment of the black community?
But when has a white man, period, been for the betterment of the black community?
The Republicans don't give a damn about what you do. The Democrats basically are stifling growth and planting seeds of dissension. Think about that. They don't want black people to create business. They don't want black people to educate their children at all. Because look at Chicago. Chicago's a Democratic mess. And you look
same thing with LA, same thing with
and you see the schools completely shut down. Schools, neighborhoods that need schools, the schools are closing. The quality of the education in these schools are garbage.
I understand, but I think the issue is, we just have to understand that neither the Republican Party nor the Democratic Party are going to have the best interests of black people. That's just where we're at. Neither one is going to.
The Democratic Party, in my opinion, is anti-education, anti-advancement.
But they're both anti-black people. Both of them are anti-black people.
I would prefer for someone not to like me simply because of my skin, but then let me mind my business and move on, than someone who doesn't like me because of my skin color and does not want me to educate myself nor my children. What you'll find is that within the Democratic Party, the whole desire to push Ebonics within the black community. Oh, it's that's your language. Bullshit. There's one language in the United States of America, which is the English language. And depending on the quality of the education that you receive, you'll speak a certain way. No other community outside of the black community do people follow the uneducated en masse, like the Black American community, where you see that the people that control our identity, the people that control, what is it? How can I put it? It's like black people are shamed into wanting to comport themselves as uneducated as possible. If you speak proper English, you want to be white. If you get an education to be able to improve your life, you want to be white. If you talk about creating wealth through business, oh, you think you better than me. If you want to have an intelligent debate, a lot of times it's about, oh, you think you better than me. Like I can say me particular, I've had instances where I've just simply had a conversation.
Right.
And the person, if they were from the inner city, because of the way that I speak, oh, you talking down to me. What?
Say that again.
Oh, you talking down to me. And I'm just like, are you kidding me?
Okay, but what does that have to do with the Democratic Party?
The Democratic Party is a cancer. It's a cancer. What have they created for black people? Nothing. They're not supposed to create. We're supposed to create our own stuff. We're supposed to create our own businesses. But then when you want to create, like I had a conversation with someone regarding the investment world. I'm a stockbroker, financial advisor. And we were having a conversation about the fact that there weren't that many Black CEOs. Right. Why aren't there that many Black CEOs? Because there aren't that many Black people creating business. You can be the CEO of your own business.
Facts.
No one has to say, oh, well, I've created this business. Let me take Jimmy Bob Pookie Butt and bring him. What do you call him? Pookie Ray or Ray Ray Pookie?
Yeah, I got you.
And Ray, I can't say that because I have a cousin named Pookie.
Damn. So is that his real name? Or is that
no, it's not his real name, but he's actually a VP. He's actually a vice president of an NBA team.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But he doesn't go by Pookie anymore. Only relatives can call him that. But what you'll find is that they don't want to have the conversation. The average Black person, I can't say all, but the average Black person does not want to have the conversation about how we create generational wealth. And it's about creating business. And you cannot expect a white person to put you at the helm of a business that they created.
Right, but what does that have to do with voting for either the Democratic or Republican?
Because the Republican Party is pro-business.
Yeah, but the Republican Party is not going to come into the Black community and say, hey, you guys need to create businesses or get.
They're not. We need to create the businesses ourselves.
Right. But so what you're saying is that the Democratic Party is coming into the Black community and saying, you guys do not create any businesses. You guys get welfare. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Because I don't see that.
I've seen it. Like literally, they have these fucking people standing in lines waiting for fucking food baskets. They're waiting for food baskets. They have sign-up sheets for Section 8. They have these programs where they sit there. They're just like, oh, well, what we can do is we can put you on the Section 8 wait list, a 10-year long waiting list where these people are sitting here waiting to get subsidized housing rather than thinking, okay, well, in the community that I live in as a parent, let me advocate for proper education in the community that I live in now. But they make them think, okay, well, we're going to help you to be able to move into a community where you're going to feel like an outsider, where no one's going to want you there. And they don't also make them aware of the fact that the reason why these Black kids who are living in those communities are doing well is because their parents advocate for the quality of the education that their children are receiving. But the Democratic Party, when they're going into these inner city neighborhoods, recruiting people to move them with subsidies, they're not telling them about advocating for the education of their children within the communities that they live. So what then in turn happens is that they pick them up, move them somewhere, and the same issues that they had in their own community, they've brought them into the other communities. But the Democratic Party keeps telling them, you get free this, free that, free this, free that, when free only lasts so long. It only lasts so long.
But again, my point, neither the Democratic Party nor the Republican Party is going to serve the best interest of Black people. I'm saying
the only people that have the best interest of Black people, and the only people that actually have the interest of Black people in mind are Black people themselves. We can't expect for someone to come in and do for us what we need to do for ourselves. That's the problem. That's the massive divide between the Democratic and the Republican Party. The Republican Party ain't giving you shit. Mm-hmm. They're giving you nothing. What they're putting in place is legislation on the federal level that allows you to be able to create business and those tax codes that assist us in order to be able to maintain those businesses over time. They don't care what color you are. They've created the legislation. You need to learn the law and you need to be able to create your business and move on from there. Take advantage of the tax loopholes like almost every other business owner in this country. Whereas on the Democratic side, what do we have? Free. Mm-hmm. Come in and get some free housing. We'll put you in the projects that you don't own, and then you complain when we come and raid your apartment. They're raiding it because you don't own it. Right. It doesn't belong to you.
Right.
We literally, like, I lived in New York City for so many years. And what I saw was like, I was just like, do these people really and truly believe that these rental laws are in their favor? Mm-hmm. And then now when gentrification comes into play, they're complaining about the fact that they can't afford to move not even up the block. Because in New York, I don't know what the rental laws are in California, but in New York City, the rental laws are basically on the side of the tenant. But they're on the side of the tenant until the landlord is able to see, okay, well, now I can make market value rent because
it depends if you have a rent control building or not. I know in LA, but the thing about rent control, the rent control buildings look
well, in New York City, you have some rent control buildings like they look like houses on the inside, like 6-bedroom apartments with like 4 baths. What? Yes. They have the pre-war and then the post-war apartments. Mm-hmm. If you have a pre-war apartment, there are some that have like marble floors and, amazing infrastructures on the outside. But then you have these people that have been living there generationally with these rent controlled laws who are paying like $200 a month rent. And now gentrification has arrived. And the kids can't move out of their grandparents' apartment because they never focused enough on education and financial advancement to be able to one day live somewhere outside of that apartment.
Let me test something out real quick. Echo, no echo. Okay, the echo's gone. Thank you. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. So you have so many people, especially in New York City, who literally, the parents never pushed education with their children. They never pushed advancement to be able to evolve outside of that inner city ghetto that they're living in. And then now gentrification has arrived, and most of them don't have the skills to be able to get a job to get them out of those areas. But then they think that now the landlord owes them something. The landlord is supposed to keep them in those apartments. Why?
Right.
That's not their right. It's not like, I don't know how it is in California with the whole issue of gentrification.
No, it's affecting Black people all over America.
But in California, were those homeowners?
No, of course not. I take that back. They were homeowners.
Okay.
So they were homeowners. And basically what happened when the values went up, the taxes went up, and they couldn't afford the taxes.
Yeah, no, in New York, it's not the case. Like in New York, you do have the issues of increased taxes, but on the most part, these are generational rent subsidized apartments. Mm-hmm. Like I remember when I got my first apartment in Harlem, I was one of the first tenants. This was back in, what year was that? This was back in 2001. Mm-hmm. So I was one of the first tenants to be paying market rent. Mm-hmm. And market rent at that time for my apartment, it was a 1-bedroom. It was $1,500
in New York.
In Harlem.
And let me ask you this, Ndona. How much were those brownstones going for, like in 2000? And we'll say like 10. They're like $1 million now.
In 2010, the price had already increased.
Okay, what about
like back in the late 90s? $1, $20.
You could buy a brownstone for $1 or $20.
Yeah. God damn. You know why?
Because they were shit.
It was still dangerous.
Right.
Like bombshell. Like it really looked like. So I started college in 94. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I started college in 94. And I remember I lived in the dorm down in the Village. But I remember my mom, who had lived in New York City in the 70s, was just like, do not take the subway and stay away from anywhere outside of Manhattan. Like, don't even go up to Harlem. Mm-hmm. But my roommate, who was, she was a transplant. She was from Mississippi, but she moved to Connecticut in her senior year, and she felt in Connecticut. But anyway, she ended up taking me up to Harlem. And it was dangerous. It was really dangerous. Like many of those brownstones were just complete shells. Mm. Like you had the outside, but there was nothing inside. Like no floors.
Are you serious?
Yeah. No floors. Just you had only the shell. So that's what you were getting, and then you would have to pay the back taxes to be able to acquire the property. A lot of those properties, the owners just walked away. And I remember even, so in the early 2000s, many of the churches up in Harlem were doing housing seminars to be able to encourage people to purchase homes. Your camera's fuzzy.
I don't know what it is, man. It's just great. They don't want me to be great. I mean, is my camera, the Wi-Fi? Just keep going. Let me see. Just keep going. Yeah, they don't want me to be great.
Like back in the early 2000s, that's when I remember a lot of the churches used to have housing seminars. Like one of the church that I was a member of at that time, they literally were campaigning for people in the community to purchase properties, where they had lists of brownstones that they could purchase at below market value. And they even put together a program that would allow you to be able to have an income producing property. So say, for example, if your own income wouldn't allow you to be able to pay the mortgage, they had brownstones that they were turning into multifamily brownstones where you could have, your hand is clear, but your face is.
I think it just cleared up. Hold on.
So
I'm playing with it. Just go ahead.
Yeah. So what they did was they basically had had programs that allowed you to be able to buy income properties where maybe your own income would not allow you to be able to get the mortgage, but because the brownstone that they were going to be renovating through these programs would create an additional 2 or 3 apartments within the property, that will allow you to be able to qualify for the mortgage. So these programs within Harlem alone, and I think even in Brooklyn, they were made to help the people of those communities. But you know what you find? What they found a lot of times is that
Nigo just wanted to buy Jordans and
just wanted to buy Jordans,
Nikes,
exactly,
phone posits, yeah,
exactly. And they also felt that, okay, well, if I'm my grandmother lived in this apartment. I was born here.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna give you a prime example. Eric Gardner. You know, when they got that big settlement, they wanted to continue to stay in the projects with that big settlement.
Not surprised, but that's the mentality. It's self-defeating. So they had all these programs in place to help them to become owners of their own community. You had these programs in place to teach them about financial literacy. You had all these programs in place to help to improve the education of the children within the communities, and the parents were against these programs. The parents. One day, my mother ended up taking my son. My son was born in 2003, and we were still living in New York City at that time. And my mother took my son to one of the local churches that was handing out school supplies. I don't know why because my sister's children were visiting from Chicago. So she took them all to this local church, and I have to say it. The typical hood rat mother turned around and said to her son, "Yo, if one of them teachers be talking crazy to you, I want you to cuss that bitch the fuck out."
Okay, let me ask you this. I gotta stop you. I'm gonna stop you right here. I'm trying not to get off subject. You said hood rat mom.
Yeah.
God, my damn camera. They don't want me to be great today. My damn camera's acting up. You said hood rat mom.
Yes.
What
do I mean?
Where's the father?
There is no father. You know, there's no dad.
Okay. So then my next question is,
ain't no daddy.
Okay, my next question is,
they don't know who the father is.
Okay, so then I'm just gonna use that. Okay, so then my next question is, what the hell just happened? Okay, there we go. Okay, I think I got it fixed. Okay, I'm great again. Okay, so then the next question is, how do you feel? Because we keep hearing this. I hear these dusty feminists talking about no patriarchy. Patriarchy is bad. We don't need patriarchy. Men are misogynistic. We don't need it in the community.
You need it. And that if you look at the Black community, And I know people do not like saying this.
And what's crazy, Democrats are pushing this shit.
You see, they're the poison. They're the cancer. They are the cancer. Because if you look at the Black community, when there were fathers within the household,
right,
you had stability. You had children who felt loved. You had children who had a male figure to go to. Because mothers, I'm going to tell you, me personally, I'm weak. I'm weak when it comes to certain things, when it comes to my children. Like, there are times where, I know I need to be harder on my son, but I'm not, because he looks at me and I'm just like, oh, my baby.
Right.
Whereas his dad is not like that. He's just like, no, you don't do it. And that's that. Simple. You don't have that discipline. You don't have that, you don't have control, like, of our communities. You don't have it.
So why are feminists, like, okay, I'm trying to stay on subject, but why are feminists so adamant about pushing this anti-Black patriarchy?
They're only doing that in the media, but within their own households. That's not true. It's only our community that has bought on to this lie that you don't need a father in the household, that you don't need structure, that you don't need marriage to build a community, that you don't need a mother and father working together to educate and to elevate their children. The white community en masse, I would say en masse, because there are some, within the white community that have fallen for the bullshit too, but en masse, they believe in creating community and having a family structure for the betterment of not only themselves, but the betterment of their children. But it's us who think you have someone saying, oh, well, you don't need a man because you're smart on your own.
Right.
We're not complete. Not saying that, being a woman isn't sufficient. It's sufficient to be who you are alone, but it's not sufficient to be able to bring forth and rear children that are going to be productive within the society one day.
Right.
What you'll find is that a bunch of feminized little boys and a bunch of little girls.
You now, by making that comment, feminists might come knocking on your door saying you're homophobic.
I'm not.
By you making that comment, you are homophobic, and you are protecting the evil Black patriarchy. That's you might get an inbox tonight from somebody at The Root or Madame Noir or Ebony Magazine saying that you are a homophobe and how dare you protect Black patriarchy.
Tell them to go into the Black community and see the results of what they've been pushing for the past 20 years.
Right.
The results of what they've been pushing for the past 20 years is little boys wearing dresses, little girls who are aggressive to the point that I wouldn't even want to talk to them.
Yeah.
And crazy mamas, like crazy mothers. I can say that, yes, mass incarceration does play a role, but at the same time, there was, up to a certain point, there still were father figures in the homes. Right. There's still, even if it wasn't maybe the child's immediate father, you had uncles, you had grandfathers that were still there to teach little children what it meant to be the leader of a household. When it turned into, oh, you don't need your grandfather around, or, don't be listening to your uncle, don't be yelling at my kids, then what do you get? What do you get? You get what we see now. A whole bunch of crack babies who are now adults. They're now in their 20s, early 30s. And you have a whole bunch of young adults, the millennial. Are you a millennial?
I was born in 82, so I think I'm either Generation X or I'm one of those.
You're not Generation X. I'm just kidding.
Okay, well, I'm somewhere in there. Yeah.
I'm Generation X.
Okay, well, so I'm somewhere, millennial, something. I don't know.
Okay, so I'm 40.
Okay, I'm 36.
Okay, so what you'll find is that a lot of those children have no father figure. And not only do they have no father figure, but then you have these women, these Black women that have believed this whole feminist mindset that they don't need a man to properly raise a child, that now these children have grown into monsters, complete savages. And it's sad. And I know maybe you don't like the fact that I'm saying it, but the Democratic Party is pushing it.
No, I know they're pushing it. See, listen, I'm neither a Democrat nor a Republican. I think we need to have our own party, form our own party, which protects our own interests. But trust me, I completely agree with you.
Yeah, they're
like somebody said in the chat room, Democrats didn't do shit for Flint. The water's still fucked up.
Yeah, it's still fucked up. And then, like, you had done a video where you're talking about Maxine Waters.
Yeah. Oh, she's the worst. Her and they're the worst. I lived in LA. She's the worst.
What I find is that they tend to lean toward Black women like her, loudmouth, aggressive,
right, and
ready to cuss you out in a heartbeat, just to get her point across. But it's counterproductive. Because even when she did that, when she was speaking to the person in the House recently, when she did that interview and she was saying, "You're not going to talk to me like that,"
right,
blah, 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 it was more like she was having a street fight rather than an educated debate.
Exactly.
And what you'll find, unfortunately, within the Black community, especially the Black feminist community, they want you to be loud, aggressive, and crazy.
Ratchet. Yeah.
Right. If you're not that way, you're trying to be white. If you're not willing to get down in the gutter with them, then you want to be white, which is sick. And the more the Democratic Party has put their tentacles within the Black community, the more destructive the behavior has become, the less productive the communities are, the less businesses that are created, and the basically the overall demise of the Black community. Overall demise.
Absolutely. I've called Maxine Waters out several times on my channel. Also, her understudy, Angela Rye, is another one. Angela Ray. That's another one. So.
Oh, you know what? There was that video that you did.
Go ahead.
Was it with the IT guy? He had mentioned something about meat.
About you?
Cloned meat.
About who?
Cloned meat.
Yeah.
You know that was approved during the Obama administration. The FDA approved for cloned meat to be sold to the masses during the Obama administration.
Wow.
And you know where that meat goes? The inner cities. They've been poisoning Black people for years. And let me tell you something.
And to be specific, you know where it goes, to these Korean and Asian ran corner stores. That's where they sell it.
Well, in New York, they're run by the Arabs.
Okay, the Arabs. Okay.
Yeah, and the Puerto Ricans. But many of those Puerto Ricans, that if you do the research of their family, many of them are Lebanese who are living in Puerto Rico, who then immigrated to the United States.
Yeah,
and the
but
Lebanese all throughout Africa doing some shady stuff.
Yeah, and they're trying to send these bad chickens to Africa.
Oh yeah, they're doing it already. You didn't know the steroid chickens?
I know. I think they're sending to South Africa. I believe.
Yeah.
It's a lot going on.
But even when we were children, my grandmother would never buy food where they sold only to Black people.
Why?
Because she knew that they were selling them garbage. Because my great-grandfather, he owned farmland, and they owned their own animals. And a lot of the trade that they did, as far as agricultural trade, was with the white farmers. So she knew when she would see like the meats and stuff. She had a friend of hers who was from Louisiana, a dark-skinned woman from Louisiana. And she used to take she used to want my grandmother to go grocery shopping with her. So we used to do grocery shopping we would go to the races on the weekends. So usually what we would do is we'd go grocery shopping early and then we'd go to the races. Right. So when we would go sometimes grocery shopping with this friend of my grandmother, she would always want us to go into Chicago. So she would take us to places like Moo and Oink and these other, like, what I call ghetto grocery stores.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like you go in there, they reeked of spoiled meat. And like I was a child and I was just like, this stuff is not healthy. And my grandmother, she would buy some things, but she would always say she wouldn't buy food where they sell only to Black people because she knows the food is expired.
You know what's crazy? And they did, I don't think the food and health inspectors, they really didn't inspect these. I mean, they let them get away with this shit, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the people are just eating. And then that's why you'll find that there's you have diabetes and all these other ailments that are associated with food. Mm-hmm. There's there's a girl that I knew who grew up in Chicago. And I remember one time she had invited me over to eat. Mm. And she was telling me how her baked beans were amazing. Now, my grandmother used to make baked beans from scratch, right, using molasses and so on. So I know how to make all of that stuff. And she literally, and it's not just her. I found that a lot in many of the people that grew up in like the projects and some of the inner cities, is that many of them eat garbage, like stuff that you normally wouldn't want to consume. Mm-hmm. She took out a few cans of Bush's baked beans that are already extremely sweet, dumped them in a big pot, cut up some green peppers, and then added a bunch of brown sugar. And I said, my children will not be eating that.
Whoa. That's not how you make it. That's not how you do it. That's how we do it.
You put brown sugar on top of the Bush's baked beans that already have.
Yeah, that's how we do it in the hood. That's not the normal way.
Hell no. And that's why they all have diabetes.
Oh, okay. Well, oh shit. I didn't know. I thought that was the way.
And then eventually her father ended up having his toes and feet amputated. But yeah, and I was just like, is that what you eat? And I found that a lot of times, even with the other things that they would cook, I was just like, this stuff is not healthy at all. Like, you see the meat, I'm just like, are you really going to eat that meat and you can smell that it's spoiled? Like, you don't see that.
I thought that was the normal way. You start to get the Bush baked beans, the green peppers or whatever, and throw some more brown sugar. And I thought, hey, I put sugar in my spaghetti.
I've seen that too.
Yeah, we put sugar in our spaghetti.
Yeah, and then that's why you have those little kids with those silver nubs in their mouth. I don't know if you know what those are? For rotten teeth kids. And they put eating quarter water. You know what quarter water is?
Oh God, what is it?
Those little colored drinks, it's sugar water.
Oh yeah. They buy it from the corner store.
Yeah.
Oh,
I saw a lot of that in New York City too. I was just like, these people are all gonna die of diabetes.
See, now they do the what are the tall cans? Shit. The hold on. Keep the tall cans.
Well, in New York City they can sell like dollar beer. Like it's like a 40 kind of like a can of beer for like $1.
So I gotta find out. I can't think of the name of the tall can. I should drink these all the time.
So you grew up in Sacramento? Like I grew
up in Sacramento. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't in the. I mean, I was on a good street in the hood. It was weird. Like the minute you cross the street, it just turned hood. And it was weird. I was on a good, stable street in the hood. I cannot. Somebody in the chat room, help me out. What's the Arizona?
Oh, those Arizona iced teas.
Oh yeah, it's fucked. Yeah, the and everything. That is crazy. Like one time I looked at the content, like the sugar content. I was like, oh God.
Those are expensive.
No, like $1.
They are?
Yeah, like $1.
Oh God.
I used to get the strawberry kiwi.
Oh Lord.
The Arizona strawberry kiwi.
I've never had it, but the can is green and pink.
Yeah, strawberry kiwi.
And I remember, like, even when I was living in Harlem, I didn't buy groceries in Harlem at all. Because the food is garbage. Like you go to those bodegas. You know what bodega is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you go to those bodegas and they're literally selling spoiled meat and wilted vegetables. Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you something, because I'm in the food industry, and I really believe, not to be conspiracy theorists, because it's really not a conspiracy, it's the truth. Again, these health inspectors allow them to get away with that stuff in the hood versus anywhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. And even wilted vegetables. Like I remember one time, one of my neighbors, who was a generational rent stabilized tenant, he had me go with her to the store, and the vegetables were all wrapped in plastic.
Are they not supposed to be wrapped in plastic?
What? I was just, how are you supposed to even be able to look at the vegetable to see whether or not, you know?
Oh, in the store. Okay.
Yeah.
You just open up the plastic.
No, you're not supposed to. They don't want you doing that.
Okay.
And then like you look at the meat, and I was just like, and she was buying meat and like sandwich meat, you know, like cold cuts. And she's just, you ain't gonna buy nothing? And I was just like, no, thank you. No, thank you. She's like, where do you shop? I was like, oh, I usually eat out. I did my grocery shopping, but not over there. There's a market right next to Columbia University by the West Side Highway that caters to the Upper West Side and the university professors. That's where I did my shopping. I shopped there, or I would go to Costco. But yeah, I wasn't buying hood food.
God.
But that's why many of them are sick, because of the food that they consume. And then there are hardly any vegetables.
Yeah, no vegetables.
Yeah. My mom, I won't tell the whole story.
Tell the whole story. Tell the whole story. You say you won't tell the whole story. Tell the whole story.
Oh, my mom was just like, when she had met some woman. So my mother has traveled the world, and some of the people that she was associated with back in the day weren't the best. And there was an issue where someone had got caught doing something, and she ended up having to go to jail to see this person. And she met some people as a result of it. And she made a comment. She was just like, I didn't know people lived off of ho-hos and she named something else, some other snack that's available in the hood. She's just like, that's what
juju beads.
I don't know, but she was like, that's why those niggas are dying. And she was like, I had never heard of a ho-ho or a Little Debbie or something like that. But she was like, that's what they're eating. But you'll find that, just to bring it back a little bit, that the Food and Drug Administration has allowed certain things to be pushed by just to be able to sell to the poor.
Right.
Because it's, you know, the average person doesn't want to spend a decent price for chicken or beef. They want it cheap. And that's not just in the Black communities, even in the Hispanic and the poor white communities. And that's an issue with classism. They don't want poor people to live forever because they don't want to have to take care of them.
Hey, somebody asked, did you drink Cisco or St. Ives malt liquor? Since you guys brought up St. Ives malt liquor, this is my favorite.
Remember that old rap with?
No, I'm about to play it. Huh? This
oh God, crooked letter I.
Commercial ever in the history of commercials. Hold on, we're about to play it right now. Hold on, give me a second. Let me split the screen. We're about to play the St. Ives commercial. This is my favorite commercial of all time. Hold on 1 second. Here we go. No, this ain't the one.
No, that's not the one.
Hold on, bro. This one goes too though.
I think you're talking about the one with the crooked eye.
Yeah. I'm about to play it. I'm gonna find it.
You see how they drag us in with music?
Yeah.
Just like the Planned Parenthood commercials.
Yeah, you gotta sexify the poison. You gotta sexify it.
Yeah, because in New York City they used to have the Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood.
Are you serious?
Yes, and they have some girl come a girl. You know, I got caught out there. Why? You know where you could go? Planned Parenthood. Teaching them how to kill babies through rap music. It's ridiculous.
Hold on.
Oh, I don't know this one.
Yeah, it's a new one. I mean, not a new one, but damn, where's my favorite one at? Hey, these St. Ives commercials were the greatest, best commercials ever.
They were.
Love these St. Ives commercials.
I'm still chilling in the city with no kids. Steps up on my front porch that check my spot.
Damn, where's the one with Nate Dogg? Hold on. We're gonna find it, you guys. Hold on. Oh, hold on, y'all. We're gonna find it. We're gonna find the best one. Hold on. St. Ives commercial. Nate Dogg.
I think it was that one with Ice Cube.
It's the one with Nate Dogg. It's the one right here. Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. It has to be this one. It has to be this one. We're gonna find it. Come on now. Goodness. They just did not want me to be great tonight. Here we go. All right, this is it right here. Hold on. Just hit the corner store. You know what I'm looking for.
Oh, yes.
St. Ives. Okay, that's enough of that. But yeah, that was by far my favorite commercial of all time was that St. Ives commercial.
But that's how they draw you in. It's like they normalize bullshit.
I know, right?
I mean, we all sitting there dancing, shaking our asses, and it's cool. And like, but I remember, like distinctly, I remember listening to Hot 97 in New York City. And all of a sudden you hear like somebody beatboxing and it's Planned Parenthood, boom, 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 Planned Parenthood. And I was just like, are they kidding? Like, are they serious right now?
Uh-huh.
But along with the Democratic Party, Planned Parenthood, the same old bullshit.
Right.
You know, I do believe in, you know, being able to, I guess I'm pro-choice to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not pro using abortion as a means. Every time you have an unprotected sex and you get pregnant, then you have like a whole cemetery of baby cadavers.
Right.
And that's what those rap songs to 15 and 16-year-olds basically is leading them to, because they normalize it. Like, oh, it's, you know, what you mean you got caught out there?
Right.
Then it's like, what? You just like you got, you know, bitten by a mosquito or something. You got caught out there. You're pregnant. And you see like all these young girls, like 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. By the time they're 20, they might have 20 cadavers in their back.
Are you serious? That many?
Are you kidding me?
Not that many.
Listen, have you not been around like young people?
I just remember when I was young. Like, I mean, we got it in, but I mean, I didn't know too many girls.
No, these kids are different. Like, they're different. Like when I was in high school, there were a couple girls that I know who had children when I was in high school that we weren't allowed to associate with. But it's out of control. Like, but I know about two girls who were using, instead of using condoms, they were using abortion as a means to just get rid of children.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gotten worse since. Like, I remember in New York City, little girls, like completely sexualized, 12, 13 years old. And they weren't sleeping with little boys, sleeping with grown ass men.
Mm.
You know, a lot of them. Remember that? I don't know if you remember. Chris Rock said the best looking Puerto Rican girl is a 13-year-old.
No, when he said that shit
In one of his stand-up shows.
Oh God.
Yeah, but in New York, a lot. Like when people criticize Planned Parenthood, they really need to research what they've actually been doing in the inner cities, because they're not teaching girls, because a lot of times these girls don't have they don't have a father in their house to show them love, and a lot of times they don't have a mother who's going to educate them on keeping their legs closed and educating them on, just even protecting themselves. And they're out there in the streets and they're having sex with guys. Sometimes with, kids that they're in school with, but a lot of times older guys, like guys in their early 20s, sometimes 30s.
Hey, somebody said, Ndona, Diane Corn said you about to get Chris Rock jammed up like Bill Cosby. You about to pull a Hannibal, what's his name? Hannibal Buress.
Oh my God.
He said you about to get Chris Rock jammed up like Bill Cosby.
Oh Lord. Oh Lord.
Christ.
Oh Lord. But listen, he did say it.
All right, let's get back to the I guess the cultural divide and yeah, we got totally off topic, but it was good. We needed this.
Yeah, definitely. And how the Black privilege in America is not sustainable. So, like, if you look at,
I don't believe in a thing called Black privilege. I don't believe in it. Only Black privilege I believe in somewhat, because I play football. But see, it's not even Black privilege; it's football privilege.
Yeah, no.
They don't even look at you as Black; they just see you as a football player.
You're an entertainer.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. But no, it does exist, and I can say that I have my own relatives. If they did not have such privilege, they would be in jail. Literally, be in jail, and that's because of family ties. And I have to be honest, it's family ties to the white community that allowed them many privileges and prevented certain things from happening. A lot of things from happening. I have relatives who, if they did not have certain privileges, would be in a lot of trouble. A lot.
Like trouble how? Like here in America or where? Like
here in America.
Okay. How? Like what do you mean? I need you to elaborate on the.
I'll give one particular example. There is a cousin of mine who had literally beaten an officer to a pulp.
Oh.
And he was never arrested, never had a record. And the judge was a family friend. And there is a lot of that.
Yeah, but everybody, the average Black person doesn't have access to, I guess a family judge or,
Right, the average Black person does not.
Yeah, so that's why it's just, I don't
those that have the means do.
Right, but I'm looking at it as from a Black collective. Like there's no
okay. So if you look at it from that point of view.
Yeah, there's no Black privilege. You look at it from a collective.
That's true. If you look at it from that point of view, there is not. But what I can say is that many of the benefits that they had before, they no longer have. And they no longer have because once they were obligated to come together as a collective, so to speak, a lot of those privileges went away. A lot of those privileges went away. Because now they were forced to have to share the playing field with the other Black people that they never wanted to associate with because they felt they were better than them. But if you look at places such as Central and Southern America, you have a lot of what we would consider to be Black people passing as white. And they're the ones that control those countries. That was the whole purpose after the decolonization of Central Southern America and the Caribbean. Those mulattoes were the ones that were left to run the countries. And they continue to run those countries. Whereas in the United States, they weren't able to do that because you had tons of white people here.
I'm just reading some of these comments in the chat room. What's up, Ia? Ia says, I have stories of when my sister got in trouble and my grandmother went to the court, shot her, and when they stuffed in front of the judge, my grandmother threw up the hand sign and my sister got off. I don't understand. Did you get that? Did you understand that?
That she threw up a hand sign and she got off.
But he said they shot her. Who shot her? Oh, it's code for Eastern Star Masonry. Okay, I guess it's code.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I do have some relatives who are Eastern Stars and Masons, but I just think those. I won't even talk about.
Okay. All right, cool. But this is see if we got any more statements or questions in the chat room. So yeah. So the example you gave, that's just specific, but it's not like Black privilege as a collective.
Yeah, as a collective, no, because if it's a collective of people that were like them, then yes. But if you have to group them now with the overall Black community, then no. Because the overall Black community never benefited from the things that they benefited from.
Right.
They never benefited from the education. They never benefited from the wealth.
Let me ask you, do you think there's like an elite Black class here in America or in general?
There is.
All right, what are they doing? Like, how do you
minding their business?
Okay. So you think they just okay? So you just
I can say specific, like even some relatives of mine, they're not boisterous. They're not out in the public. They are just running their businesses and minding their business. You don't see them on social media. You don't see them looking to advertise their wealth. You also don't see them looking to give back to the quote unquote Black community either. Because unfortunately, I don't know about if this really happens within the white community, but within the Black community, you'll find that a lot of times Black people that did not have the same opportunities, they have predatory behavior.
Okay, when you say predatory, okay. So you think
they're the same people that will come in and rob you?
Got you. Okay.
Try and help them out. Like I remember my grandmother helped so many people get jobs. Help them get so many jobs and help them to just gain access to a lot of things that they normally wouldn't have been able to gain access to, coming from lower income families and coming from Chicago or coming from the South, that they would have never been able to gain access to. But because she had this desire to help people, many times there was the same people that were stealing from us, that were, even though people told her she had property that she rented out within Evanston, and she, trying to help people out, took on some Section 8 tenants, which people told her not to do.
Right.
And what she did, she took them on, and what they do, they destroyed her property.
Wow.
They broke stuff that normally you're just like, how the hell do you break a porcelain toilet?
Right.
Why are you driving on the lawn? Why can't, there is a driveway and there's a garage. Put your car in the driveway. Put your car in the garage. Why do you have to drive across the grass? And then you would hear them make comments like, oh, you know, that white woman. She wasn't white. She was a light-skinned Black woman who was trying to help out her dark-skinned, uneducated brothers. And the same people that she tried to help out were the same people that were robbing her, the same people that were destroying her property.
Right.
So unfortunately, many of those families, they're like, I'll live my life, make my money, care for my children, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they, a lot of times when they do try and help out, then that's what happens. Because the same way they treat white people, feeling they're supposed to give to them, they feel that the black people that have the means are supposed to give to them too.
So let me ask you this: do you think? Okay, I guess the stereotype is that the black elite, they don't get involved in everyday issues that affect the black collective. You know, whether it be unarmed black men being killed by police, or things like that. Is that true?
It is true.
And why is that? Why is that?
Because their main goal is just take care of themselves, and that's it. And that's what it's been generationally. It hasn't been about, you heard of the talented 10th. The talented 10th was not for the masses.
Right.
It was for a certain group of people to be able to advance themselves and advance the lives of their children, and that was it. And they assumed, which they knew it wasn't true, they would state that by them being successful, then the masses would follow, but that's not true. Mm-hmm. The masses won't follow because the masses feel that you're different from them. And anytime you're different from them, they think, unfortunately, within the black community, they're just like, oh, well, they think they're better than me. Even if they don't state it, it's an assumption that's made. Because I remember so just to tell you how, just to show you how sad it is, I remember when we were children, the children that came in from Chicago and sometimes from the lower income families that came in, that were the children of the maids. Mm-hmm. A lot of them, well, almost all of them were in speech class. Mm-hmm. And it was to be able to help them to be able to properly speak English. Whereas the Black Evanston children, none of us needed speech. And they would entice these children with toys and candy and trips and games. And I used to ask my mom, I was just like, why don't we get toys and games and candy? And she said, because, those children can barely speak.
Right.
And I remember the first time I used the word ain't. Mm-hmm. I got in so much trouble. And my grandmother told my mother, you can tell that your children are hanging around niggers.
Golly.
And she told my mother, your children have real niggers for friends. Because listen to how they're speaking now. And, something as simple as speech, they didn't want us associating with those children because they didn't want us speaking like them.
Wow.
God forbid you have children by them.
Wow. All right, so we have to end the night. In fact, everybody who's watching, please hit the like button. If you're not super chatting, the least you could do is hit the like button and share. So let's end on a positive note.
Oh.
Hold on, we go commercial public. What are some solutions? Everybody wants solutions.
The solution would be that I think you should do a lot more videos on creating businesses.
I have. I've been doing I have a lot in the archives. In fact, we just did the one with the IT today. We did that. I have a lot of videos as far as, if you want to build businesses in Africa, I do a lot of that.
You also need to talk about incorporating a business. Mm-hmm. Your friend had mentioned how how most of what he owns is in his company's name. Mm-hmm. That's a definite.
Right.
Need to also talk about how to create wealth through business by doing, like Facebook, for example. Facebook, they did private placement before they did public offering. Mm-hmm. You know what a private placement is?
No.
Where basically they sold shares of their company on the private market before they eventually went public by doing an initial public offering. So when it comes to talking about business with African Americans, very rarely do we talk about the importance of Wall Street. A lot of times people are anti-Wall Street. That's bullshit. That's how you create massive amounts of wealth. You create your business, you build your business, you do a preliminary private placement, through selling shares of your company on the private market. And then once you build equity through that, then you can eventually go on to what's called an initial public offering, where you're able to sell your shares to the mass market. That's what creates millions and billions.
Let me ask you this. What are you doing tomorrow?
Working. You mean tomorrow evening?
Yeah.
I'm available.
Okay, everything you just said, we got to do a show on tomorrow night.
Okay.
If you're cool. And I know this is what you do, so, you know, there might be people in the chat room that, you know, might become your client, you know.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
You know, I don't know everybody's financial.
Wall Street is our biggest friend.
I'm always ready 24/7. I've reached out to Dr. Harnett several times, never got a response. So, you know, are you familiar with Dr. Harnett?
I've heard the name, but I don't know much about it.
Yeah, so I just, you know, just whatever. I reached out to Claude Anderson. You know, still waiting to hear back. So, you know, I reached out. I haven't heard from him. So I just got to keep it pushing. We got Ndona. So
that's the only way you can actually create real wealth, not pennies.
Right.
I remember when Facebook went public. I remember like Spotify recently went public. You know, there are a number of companies that went public, and that's where the real wealth comes from. That's where there's the gap between the Black business owner and the white and even Asian business owner, and even the Middle Eastern business owner. They're selling their shares on the open market, and that's how they're creating the millions and billions of dollars. People will buy your shares if they believe in your company.
Yeah, so we got to do a show on that.
Okay.
All right, everybody. And Ndona, anything else you want to share in closing before we log out?
I just think that if we focus more on if the Black American community gets away from the bullshit of feminism and the anti-family and the anti-father, and focus on actually creating a community that can be self-sustaining through business ownership, land ownership, and knowing and learning about how the open markets work, then that's the only way we can truthfully be financially independent. But if we're constantly looking for someone to give us something, looking for subsidies, you know, waiting for the Section 8 list and, you know, trying to figure out where they're giving out baskets of food, it's not going to change. The only way is by maintaining a proper family structure and building business within our communities.
Hey, Cohen Davis says you're on fire tonight.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. You know.
No one else has commented?
I mean, people are commenting, you know, you got some.
It's not telling me because
I mean, people got some trolls, and then, you know, I don't know where, you know, sometimes these people minds are at times. So I don't know. But Cohen has been saying you've been doing a great job, and, you know, I love you, so we're good. It doesn't matter what anybody else says.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And Diane Korn says you were really awesome as well.
Thank you, Diane.
Yeah, Diane is cuddled up with her Brad in South Africa somewhere.
Oh, really? Well, really quick story.
Yeah, we got to collect her. We got to connect her with Halima.
Absolutely. No,
we got to connect Diane with Halima.
Really quick story. One of my mom's very good friends from when she was entertaining, who's very much like my mother. She went to South Africa during the apartheid regime as an official white. She was married to a white man who traded diamonds.
Okay. All right.
And I think that goes back to the whole white daddy contributing to the well-being of his colored wife and children.
Hey, Diane, do you get to trade diamonds as a white woman in South Africa? Got to connect you with Halima. we can't have Halima on tomorrow, but we will make sure Halima will make a special appearance sometime this week or next week.
Absolutely, yeah.
We'll definitely get Halima on the show. And
yes,
in fact, Diane, I'm gonna do a show with you and Halima, and Halima's gonna put you up on game. Diane, have you seen Halima yet? We will definitely connect you with Halima. She will put you up on game. But everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you go to Search for Uhuru, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, and Facebook. Julius Malima Sr. says you look good at 40.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm trying to, listen, I'm trying to get it tight and right for the summer. I'm still out for
right for the summer.
Summer's already here. I think I'm a bit late.
Yeah, trying to get right for the summer. It's hot as hell. Like it went from 50 degrees to 90 here in Atlanta.
I'm here sweating. I'm just like, oh my God, what's going on?
Everybody, I want to give a special shout out to Doug, who is moderator of the year on YouTube. Doug is, I don't know what Doug does. I don't think Doug ever sleeps, but he is me, O'Shea, and I see Doug everywhere in everyone's stream. So we got to give a shout out to Doug. We are definitely going to get Doug a moderator of the century of the year plaque. We got to hook up Doug. Shout out to Doug, everybody.
Shout out, Doug.
Shout out to Doug. So everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you go to searchforuhuru.com, dynastymirror.com, africapersonified.africa. Go to amazon.com, search your name, Dynasty Mirror. Please buy a book. Also go to Africa Personified on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, and Facebook. Same with Search for Uhuru. Till next time, everybody. I'm gonna get you back on tomorrow, Ndona, if you're free.
Okay.
We could talk about, financial literacy and all this other stuff, things that we need to hear instead of all the, hey, I don't know what the hell people be talking about these days. But yeah, we'll discuss it tomorrow.
All right.
All right, everybody. Till next time. Peace.